My name is Cliff Willmeng. I'm a Lafayette resident here. Myself and my family, we moved out here about 7 years ago from Chicago. I've got a bit of a background in political activism, but really we came out here to Colorado just due to the clean environment and transparent politics. And right now, as we speak, we've got a bit over about 90 wells in Boulder County. Here in Lafayette, we've got about 14 wells. Back in 2011, oil and gas or fracking in particular, was understood as a method of creating methane, which would be used as a bridge fuel to a fossil fuel-free world. Whether we should continue to burn fossil fuels, who should be the ultimate decision makers, and whether Boulder County got blown up by a bunch of wells, those were all very intentionally removed from the conversation. And there's a reason, because if we start talking about things in terms of rights or who's making the decision about these fuels, it starts to take on a very different element. And right about that summer of 2012, there was a fairly large explosion right around Fort Lupton that actually killed an Encana worker and sent 3 to the hospital. And right at that time, the spokesperson from Encana had issued some quote. Her name was Wendy Whitenbach, of those of you who remember her. About a week before that explosion, she said that Boulder County would be drilled with the same degree of safety and responsibility that Weld County is being drilled. There's no way, if these fuels are burned, which is their inherent purpose, they will add to a catastrophic amount of climate change. As Longmont had invited Hickenlooper to come in and speak to the public, he refused to do so and met with the Colorado Chamber of Commerce up there in Longmont. And at the end of the night, he made the mistake of exiting that meeting through the crowd of about 300 people who accosted him like a bunch of serfs in some kind of feudal uprising and literally chased John Hickenlooper into his car and sent him on his way. The Lafayette Community Bill of Rights not only bans fracking, it bans all extraction of all fossil fuels, it bans the disposal of associated industrial wastes, and it bans the creation of all extractive infrastructure in Lafayette, including pipelines. So right now, everyone that's in this building right now, you are in the home of the most comprehensive ban on fossil fuels in Colorado state history. So the Lafayette Community Bill of Rights was in essence an act of legal civil disobedience. The system is not broken, the system is fixed. It's running perfectly according to design. And fracking being forced and mandated into Lafayette is the exponent of that system. And what we're saying is we don't care what your opinion is. We're banning fracking here in Lafayette because we're going to ultimately have to defend that Community Bill of Rights. Of course, we didn't know how long it would be or if we would get sued. Of course, it was about 3 weeks until the lawsuit landed in Lafayette, which of course gave rise to a ton of those state ballot initiatives that you heard. The Colorado Community Rights Amendment was the one that we worked on, which, as Marilee talked about, really started to go right after the heart of the discrepancy between corporate power and the rights of communities and people where we live. It is a broad measure that doesn't delineate just fracking, because corporations enjoy a very broad spectrum of rights over communities, and we didn't want to sequester it to just fracking. Because, as some of you may know, Lafayette is preempted from creating a living wage here that is higher than the state's. As some of you may know, we are preempted from banning GMOs. We are preempted from creating rent control for affordable housing. So all of these things are laws that are created by the 1% to suppress the 99%, because if everything went to a vote, the 99% would tend to win. Lafayette is a home rule community, Boulder is a home rule community, and Longmont is a home rule community. So all of us could create these charter amendments where we could put this stuff to a vote for people to amend our home rule charter. But Boulder County is a statutory community, which means that you don't have the option to do that. The county commissioners can put things onto the ballot, but regardless, despite our best attempts, we've never convinced the county commissioners to put fracking to a direct vote of the people, and you probably know why. The county commissioners started to enact regulations. They started to basically embody that narrative that we talked about that said, well, we can't ban fracking here in Boulder County but we can really regulate it very stringently, and hopefully within the course of that, that will be a satisfactory conclusion to the citizens and the environment and all of that sort of thing. During those initial days, that was the conversation, is that we need very good regulations. And a growing group of us in Boulder County that were also fighting here on the home front at Lafayette essentially split our attention between the county and Lafayette. And what we brought to the county was this idea that no, actually, well-regulated fracking, an acceptable level of benzene in the air is kind of a non-starter to us. In our perspective, everything that's been accomplished has landed over 20,000 wells in Weld County, and so we feel that the business model needs to change now. In December of 2013, the Boulder County Commissioners at their meeting were going over the final touches for the oil and gas regulations by which they could start accepting permits. How many people here know what a mic check is?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Mic check.
Mic check. Right. So we got it here. Under any circumstances, Boulder County will not be drilled. We will not accept a well-regulated fracking. Our rights are primary to the rights of Encana and the corporations. And of course, you've got 300 people in the room repeating everything that she's saying. The Boulder County Commissioners were very, very upset. They actually walked out of the chambers of the County Commission meeting, at which point, how many people here know who the Earth Guardians are?
Oh, yeah.
So they're badass. Yeah, so all of the Earth Guardians, which are a youth group, the environmentalists in Boulder, went and took the place of the county commissioners that night. And after we had enjoyed owning, imagine people owning their governmental meetings. It was very contentious. And then I put a resolution to the floor and I said, how many, Chairman, can we get a vote on fracking here tonight? And so, of course, Sheteskit, who was, I think, all of 13 years old, acting as chair, said, how many people here want to ban fracking in Boulder County? And of course, every hand in the room went up in the air. Later in 2013, the Boulder County Commissioners voted unanimously to end the moratorium on new gas permits. Those of us in Lafayette had predicted that from a very long time. A lot of people were very demoralized. A lot of people were very disillusioned when that took place. A lot of folks thought that the county commissioners, under no circumstances, would ultimately allow fracking in Boulder County. So at that point, we created a community meeting that had about 300 people in it. It was down at the Unity Church in Boulder. And we started to organize nonviolent civil disobedience trainings and a recall effort. 3 weeks after the civil disobedience training started, the county commissioners reconvened and totally reversed their decision on ending the moratorium on oil and gas permits. Of course, they were very clear in that meeting that the people's opinion had nothing to do with their behavior. We understood that if Boulder County was going to be protected, if our families were going to be protected, if our schools and our homes and our communities, it would likely not come from the elected officials. It would likely not come from big celebrities. It would likely not come from the Sierra Club or Barack Obama. That we had to do it ourselves. After that Supreme Court decision, the Boulder County Commissioners have since, in the last 6 months, ended the moratorium that should have gone through 2018 and are now going back into those regulatory hearings so that oil and gas permits can eventually arrive here and Boulder County can be drilled. According to the Boulder County government, that would mean as much as 1,800 oil and gas wells in Boulder County. That not only would it be 1,800 wells, not only would those 1,800 wells be fracked, but they could also be fracked up to 17 times. The frack operation takes about 12 million gallons of water. So that's one well. So if we do believe water is life, which I think we do know that, fracking is death. We have been able to keep oil and gas drilling out of Boulder County for 4 years. And granted, that's because of people like you. That's not because John Hickenlooper said it was okay. And it's not because Encana decided that there was nothing worthwhile here. That was done as it's the embodiment of the political force that we created. So we have reconvened here in Lafayette. The original group that we did the Community Bill of Rights was East Boulder County United. We've reconvened here in Lafayette, many of us from around the county, but only a small handful so far, to discuss what the next phase of this will be. Because ultimately what we're seeing is that we've kicked the can down the road so long that at some stage, and potentially as soon as next month, the permit on oil and gas activity will end. And the Boulder County Commissioners will then start to accept new permits for drilling. And what we're here to discuss today, and until we win a decisive victory that permanently bans fracking for all times in Boulder, is we have to start talking about how the defense and the protection of Boulder County looks. It's not going to take place by us appealing to the county commissioners. They've already heard it. They know the arguments, they know the statistics, and they know the laws. And right now the county commissioner is going to have to ask themselves whether they want to become law enforcement agencies for the Colorado Oil and Gas Association, or they want to join us in a new people's movement. And I don't use that term lightly. I want to say the way we define movement here in Lafayette is when a group of people understands that the system is rigged, and starts to break the laws that chain us to our own demise with the intent to do so as to protect our people. I think that looking in terms of protecting ourselves from the oil and gas industry, anybody that has looked or seen Standing Rock, the events that are taking place up in Standing Rock, we're not alone in that either.